Hello, my name is Olivia. I am a student of English. I want to tell you about my journey, how I learned to think in English. It was not easy at first, but step by step, I changed the way I think, and it changed the way I speak. I didn't need perfect grammar. I just needed a new way to think. I stopped translating words. I started living in English, absolutely. Here's point one from Olivia's story. I changed what I said to myself in my head. Written in long paragraphic form, more than 2,000 words, in first person, and in very simple English. The ending will smoothly lead into the next point, keeping the story continuous. When I first started learning English, I was full of hope, but also full of fear. I wanted to speak like native English speakers, but I couldn't. Every time I tried to say something, I had to think so hard. I didn't know how to say what I was thinking. My brain was full of words from my own language, and I had to change every word into English before I could say it. This made me slow, unsure, and very tired. I would stand there trying to talk, but my mind felt like a busy street, full of traffic, full of noise, and hard to move through. I remember one day in my English class, our teacher asked us a simple question. "What did you eat for breakfast today?" My classmates answered quickly, "I ate eggs. I had toast. Just coffee." But me? I sat there frozen. Not because I didn't eat, not because I didn't know the answer, but because I was busy translating my breakfast from my language into English. In my language, the words sounded smooth and easy, but when I tried to change them into English, they felt heavy and strange. I was lost in my own mind. I finally said, I ate rice with, something. It was short. It was simple. But it didn't feel right. I felt small. I felt like I would never speak English well. That night I went home and looked at myself in the mirror. I was quiet for a long time. Then I said to myself, "Olivia, you can learn English, but not like this. You need to stop thinking in your own language. You need to think in English." I didn't know how to do that, but I knew I had to start. I had to change the way I spoke to myself. So I made a small plan. I decided to say easy English sentences in my head during the day. I told myself it was okay to be simple. It was okay to be wrong. The only rule was, no more translating. The next morning, when I woke up, I didn't let myself think in my own language. I opened my eyes and said, "I am waking up." It felt a little strange. My mind didn't like it. It wanted to use the old way. But I pushed that feeling away. I got out of bed and said in my head, "I'm getting up. I'm going to the bathroom." I brushed my teeth, looked at the mirror and said quietly, "I am brushing my teeth." I didn't know why I was doing it out loud, but somehow it helped. It made the English feel more real. At breakfast, I looked at my plate. "This is bread, this is tea." Then I said, "I am eating bread, I am drinking tea." My sentences were like little children. They were not big or smart, but they were alive. They were English. That was enough for me. During the day, I kept doing the same thing. If I saw a cat on the street, I said, "That is a cat. The cat is running." If I picked up my phone, I thought, "I am checking my phone." It became like a game. I didn't always know the words. Sometimes I had to guess. Sometimes I used easy words like thing, stuff, or that because I didn't know the real word. But I didn't stop. I kept going. I told myself, it's okay to be simple. Just keep thinking in English. After a few days, I started to feel something new. My head felt lighter. My thoughts were moving faster. I didn't have to stop and change every word from my own language. Some words started coming to me in English before I even thought of them in my language. I remember one afternoon I was washing the dishes and I suddenly thought, I like doing this, it's relaxing. I smiled. I didn't try to think that sentence, it just came to me. It came in English, not in translation. That was the first time I felt that English could live inside me. Every night, before sleeping, I would think back on my day. I would say things like, I went to school, I talked to my teacher, I bought a coffee. They were simple things, but I said them all. In English, if I didn't know a word, I would use something close. If I didn't know how to say it, I just skipped it. I didn't stop and look for the perfect word. I just kept thinking in English, even if it was messy. My brain was learning a new way. Sometimes I made mistakes. I knew that. One time I said to myself, I drinked coffee. Later, I remembered the right word is drank, but I didn't feel bad. I was happy that I tried, and now I always remember that it's drank. Because I learned it through doing, not just reading. I also started using small English phrases to help me move through my day. When I felt lazy, I said, "Let's go, Olivia. Just do it." When I felt nervous before class, I said, "You can do it. Just breathe." These little talks help me feel stronger. They also help me think faster in English because they were real emotional thoughts, not just grammar practice. I was using English for my feelings, for my habits, for my daily life. One day, something amazing happened. I was walking home, and a tourist asked me for directions. I didn't panic. I didn't freeze. I said, "Yes, I can help. You go straight, then turn right. The park is near the bank." The tourist smiled and said thank you. I smiled too, not just with my face, but inside my heart. I felt like I was finally becoming someone who could live in English, not just study it. It wasn't magic. It was just practice. Quiet, simple practice. Inside my head. That was where everything started to change, and soon, thinking in English didn't feel like a task anymore. It became a part of my life. I would talk to myself while cooking, walking, or even shopping. I didn't need anyone to hear me. I just needed to keep going, but even with all this practice, I sometimes felt lonely. I wanted to use English more, not just in my mind, but out loud. I wanted to feel more natural when I spoke. I wanted to be ready when someone talked to me in English. That's when I started doing something new, something that helped me even more. After I started thinking in English, my days slowly began to change. The thoughts in my head were no longer always in my native language. They were soft, simple English sentences that helped me move through my day. But even though I was improving, I noticed something strange. I was still very hard on myself. Every time I made a mistake in English, even in my head, I felt bad. I would say things like, "Why can't you say it better?" Or, "You're too slow. You should know this by now." And slowly, I began to feel like I was fighting with my own mind. It didn't make sense. I was trying so hard to grow. I was thinking in English all day, doing my best, but still, I felt like I was failing. It was not because my English was bad. No, it was better than before. It was because my own voice inside my head wasn't kind to me. It was always judging me, always pointing out my small mistakes, always asking for more, faster, better. And that voice made me feel tired. One afternoon, I sat alone in the library, reading a simple story in English. It was about a young girl who got lost in the woods, but kept telling herself, "I can find my way. I'm brave. I won't give up." Those words hit me deeply. They weren't perfect English. They weren't fancy. But they were soft and full of hope. I closed the book and looked around the quiet room. I thought, that little girl talks to herself better than I talk to myself. And that made me stop. That day, something inside me changed. I decided to try something new. I would stop being my own enemy. I would become my own friend. I would speak to myself like someone who cares for me, someone who supports me. And yes, I would still use English, but now English wouldn't only be a tool for learning, it would be a tool for kindness. The next morning, I woke up and instead of saying, I must speak better today, I said, it's okay, Olivia. Let's try our best today. Just like that. One small change. But that soft sentence felt like a warm hand on my shoulder. It felt like someone was cheering for me, and that someone was me. As I brushed my teeth, I smiled in the mirror. I said out loud, you're doing okay. You're learning. And that's good. My reflection smiled back. It felt strange at first, but also good. I didn't feel like I had to be perfect anymore. I just had to be kind to myself and keep going. During my walk to school, I kept practicing. I saw a dog and said, that dog is so cute. Look at it run. Then I added, you noticed that quickly, Olivia. Good job. I laughed a little because it sounded silly. But deep inside, it made me feel strong. I was not just practicing English. I was also teaching myself to feel safe inside my own mind. In class, I made a small mistake while reading. I said the word though as thought. A few students laughed. Before I would have gone quiet, I would have said in my mind, you always mess up. Why are you like this? But now, I said to myself in a soft voice, it's okay. Everyone makes mistakes. You'll get it next time. You're brave for trying. And just like that, the shame in my chest melted. I kept reading. I didn't stop. And that felt like winning. Each day, I practiced more. I didn't just think in English. I encouraged myself in English. I spoke kind words in the mirror. I cheered for myself when I remembered a new word. I smiled and said, nice try, Olivia, when I forgot something. When I got something right, I said, see, you're growing. My English became the voice of a good friend, not a scary teacher. It wasn't only about speaking better, it was about feeling better. Because when I felt safe inside, my words came out more easily. I was not afraid of mistakes anymore. I wasn't trying to sound perfect. I was just trying to be real. And real is beautiful. One day, I had a very bad morning. I woke up late, missed breakfast, and forgot my homework. I felt angry with myself. I almost went back to my old habit of saying bad things in my head. You're so careless. You'll never learn. But I caught myself. I took a breath, and I said in English, it's just a bad morning, not a bad day. You can still have a good afternoon. Be kind to yourself. Those words were soft, like a blanket on a cold day. I didn't cry, even though I felt like it. I smiled, a small, tired smile, and said, let's keep going, Olivia. That's when I truly believed in the power of talking to myself like a friend. From that day forward, I started building a habit. Every morning I said something nice to myself in English. Sometimes I said, you are trying hard. That matters. Other days I said, let's just do our best. That's enough. These little phrases became part of my routine. They were like small lights that helped me see the way forward. At night I wrote in my journal, just short sentences in English. Not perfect, but full of care. I would write things like, today I spoke in class. I was scared, but I did it. I learned a new word, gentle. I want to be gentle with myself. It's hard sometimes, but I am proud of myself. Writing in this way helped me hear my own kindness. It helped me believe that English was not just for books or tests. It could also be for healing, for love, for inner peace. One weekend, I went to a park with my little cousin. She was learning to ride her bike. Every time she fell, I told her, it's okay. You're doing great. Try again. And suddenly, I saw something. The words I gave to her were the same words I was learning to give to myself. I felt proud. I felt like the kind person I was becoming on the inside was starting to show on the outside. English was no longer just a subject I studied. It was becoming the voice of my strength, and that voice said things like, take your time. It's okay to be afraid. You are not behind. You are on your own path. Slowly, this new voice changed the way I saw myself. I wasn't just Olivia, the girl who struggles with English. I became Olivia, the girl who keeps going, who speaks kindly to herself, who grows a little every day. Even my friends noticed. One of them said, "You look more calm lately. What's your secret?" I smiled and said, "I talk to myself like a friend now." She laughed, but I could tell she understood. The most beautiful moment came one afternoon, at the school cafe. I was sitting with a group of classmates. Someone made a grammar mistake while talking. Another student started correcting him in a rude way. The room went quiet. I looked at the person who made the mistake and said gently, "Don't worry. We all make small mistakes. You said it well." His eyes brightened. He smiled. And just like that, I saw how my new way of speaking, the kind voice I had grown inside, was now helping others too. That was the day I truly believed in the power of talking to myself like a friend. Because that voice didn't just stay in my head, it became my real voice. It shaped my words, my heart, and my life. Now, even when English is hard, I do not panic. I do not blame myself. I listen. I breathe. And I say softly, "It's okay, Olivia. You're doing just fine." And slowly, something even better started happening. As I spoke more kindly to myself, I felt more confident to speak out loud, to other people. I wasn't afraid anymore. Not of judgment, not of mistakes. Because I had already found the most important friend I needed, the one inside me. After I learned to talk to myself like a friend, something inside me changed. I began to feel safer with my thoughts. English no longer felt like a mountain I had to climb. It started to feel like a path I was walking one step at a time. I didn't feel alone anymore because I had built a soft and helpful voice inside my head. But still, there was one problem I could not ignore. I didn't sound natural when I spoke. I could make sentences in English, yes, but they sounded too stiff, like I was reading from a textbook. The words were correct, but they didn't feel real. One day in class, our teacher asked a question about weekend plans. I said, "On Sunday, I will go to market and buy groceries." My teacher nodded kindly, but the girl next to me, her name was Mia, turned and said with a smile, "Oh, I'm just going to hit the farmer's market on Sunday. I need fresh veggies." Everyone laughed at how excited she looked, and I noticed something. Her sentence was so easy, so light. It wasn't like what I had said, even though we meant the same thing. I kept thinking about that moment all day. "I will go to market" sounded right in my head, but Mia had said it like a real native speaker. Her words danced out of her mouth, fast, casual, and full of feeling. I realized something very important that day. If I wanted to think and speak like a native, I had to listen like one too. That evening, I went home and made a quiet promise to myself. I would start watching how real people talk in English, not from grammar books or language apps, but from the world, the real world. I wanted to know how people talked to their friends, how they joked, how they got excited or annoyed, how they told stories, how they even paused between thoughts. I wanted to hear it all. So I opened YouTube. At first, I searched for English speaking practice, but most of the videos were just lessons. I wanted more than lessons. I wanted life. So I typed daily vlog in English and hit play. It was a video of a girl my age showing her morning routine. She wasn't teaching. She was just talking. She said things like, "Okay, guys, I'm so tired today, but let's go make coffee." And, "This shirt is totally wrinkled, but I don't care." Her voice went up and down. She used simple words, but they sounded alive. That was the kind of English I wanted to learn. I watched the full video without stopping. Then I watched it again, but this time I paused after each sentence and repeated it out loud. I didn't worry about understanding every single word. My goal was to copy the way she said things, her tone, her rhythm, even her little laughs. At first, I felt silly. I was sitting alone in my room, talking to my laptop screen, trying to sound like a stranger. But then I remembered how I used to talk to myself like a friend. And I said, "It's okay, Olivia. This is how we grow." Each day I watched one video like that. Sometimes it was a vlog, sometimes it was a cooking video or a shopping haul. I didn't care what it was about, as long as the speaker was real and natural. I listened closely. I paused often. I spoke after them, word by word, sentence by sentence. I wasn't just learning English now, I was absorbing it. And something funny started happening. After a few days, I began hearing the phrases in my own thoughts. Instead of saying, "I will take a shower," I started thinking, "I'm gonna hop in the shower real quick." Instead of, "I am tired," I started saying, "Ugh, I'm so wiped today." It felt like magic. The language started living inside me. I wasn't forcing it anymore. It was becoming mine. I remember one morning I walked into class and sat next to Mia, the same girl who had said, "Gonna hit the farmer's market." She looked tired and said, "Ugh, Monday already?" And without thinking, I replied, "I know, right? I could totally use like 5 more hours of sleep." She laughed and nodded, and I smiled because I didn't plan that sentence. I didn't stop to think. It just came out, naturally, like I was one of them. That was the day I truly felt like I was in the language, not just near it. After that, I got braver. I started watching American TV shows. At first, the speed was scary. Everyone talked so fast with slang and jokes I didn't understand. But I told myself, just listen. You don't have to catch everything. Just feel the rhythm. So I chose one show, a light comedy with short episodes, and watched one scene over and over. I didn't use subtitles. I just watched, and then I copied. I didn't just repeat what they said, I copied how they said it, their pauses, their sighs, the way their voices changed with emotion. I became a little actor in my room, performing small parts of real conversations. It was fun. It was real. It was working. And soon, those phrases became part of me. When I was hungry, I thought, "Let's grab a bite." When I was late, I thought, "Oh no, I totally spaced on the time." When I was happy, I said, "This is awesome." I had become a collector of real living English, and my favorite part? It all came from watching and copying. One afternoon, I helped a friend study for a test. She was new to English just like I had been. She looked at a sentence and said, "Teacher says it should be 'do not worry.' But it sounds funny." I smiled and said, "Yeah, but most people just say, 'don't worry,' or even 'no worries.' Want to hear how I use it in a sentence?" She nodded. I said, "No worries, we've got this." And she laughed and repeated it after me. That was the moment I realized something important. I was now sharing what I had learned. The English I copied from others had become my own, and now I was passing it on. The best part of all this was how much more confident I felt in real conversations. Before, I would think too much. I would try to make a sentence in my head first, then say it. But now, because I had practiced real conversations so many times, the words came naturally. I didn't build them from scratch anymore. I remembered them, full phrases, whole expressions, just like a native speaker does. I wasn't afraid of speed anymore. I had trained my ears by listening. I had trained my tongue by copying. I had trained my mind by repeating. And I had trained my heart by believing I could do it. Even now, whenever I hear a phrase I like, I repeat it out loud. I don't care where I am, in my room, on the bus, or walking in the park. If I hear a beautiful sentence, I copy it. I taste it with my own voice. I let it stay with me. And slowly, I'm building my own library of real English, not from books, but from people. If you ever want to think in English like a native, my advice is simple. Don't just study English. Live it. Watch how real people speak. Copy them with love. And one day, without even noticing, you'll open your mouth and sound just like them, just like I did. After I had spent weeks watching and copying real English conversations, I began to notice something. My ears were sharper now. I could hear the natural flow of English, even when I wasn't trying too hard. My tongue moved faster, too. The words came out more smoothly, like they had been living inside me all along, just waiting for the door to open. But even with all this growth, I still had one problem. I was great at copying others, but I wasn't yet living in English when no one was around. I was still thinking in two languages. Whenever I spoke out loud or practiced with a video, I was fine. But inside my head, in the quiet moments when no one was talking to me, I still thought in my first language. And that slowed me down. If I saw a chair, my brain first said the word in my native tongue, then translated it to English, chair. If I felt hungry, I thought in my own language, then changed it. I'm hungry. It was like there was a translator living in my head. And I realized something. As long as that translator stayed, I would never be fully free in English. One day, I sat on my bed and looked around my room. I tried to name everything I could see in English. Desk, lamp, pillow, book, charger, pen, blanket. It was easy at first. These were simple words. I had learned them long ago, but then I noticed something interesting. I had never tried to think in English for things I didn't usually talk about, like the corner of the table, or the dust on the shelf, or the zipper on my hoodie. I knew those words, kind of, but I didn't own them. They didn't live in my everyday thoughts. They were just visitors in my vocabulary, and that's when I made a big decision. I would start using English for everything I saw, everything I touched, everything I felt. Even when I was completely alone, I would stop using my first language in my head, one object at a time. The next morning, I woke up and didn't let myself say good morning in my first language. I whispered, "Good morning, Olivia," with a smile. Then I looked at the ceiling. White ceiling, spinning fan, dusty light bulb, bright window. I moved my blanket and thought. Blue blanket, soft, a little cold. I touched the floor with my feet. Wooden floor, smooth, needs cleaning. It was a strange game at first. I felt like a little girl, learning to speak again. But it also felt exciting. I was making my brain live in English. I wasn't waiting for someone to talk to me. I was talking to myself silently all day. At breakfast, I picked up my spoon, silver spoon, hot oatmeal, cinnamon smell. I looked. Out the window, cloudy sky, quiet street, barking dog. Each word made the world feel more alive. And something beautiful happened. I started noticing more around me. When I was naming things, I paid attention to them. The soft scratch of my slippers, the click of the toaster, the steam rising from my tea. English wasn't just a language anymore. It was the way I was experiencing my world. I kept going. Every day, I made it a habit. I talked to myself in English, out loud when I was alone, or silently when I was in public. If I saw a car, I didn't just say car. I said red car, old, model, dirty windows. If I walked past a store, I said clothing shop, sale sign, mannequins wearing summer dresses. Even my own feelings had to be in English. If I was tired, I thought, I'm exhausted today, but I'll be okay. If I was happy, I said, this feels amazing. I can't stop smiling. Sometimes I would forget a word. Like once, I wanted to say hanger, but I didn't know it in English. So I looked it up, said it a few times, hanger, hanger, hanger. And from then on, every time I opened my closet, I saw not just shirts or jackets, but shirts hanging on hangers. Slowly, my vocabulary grew, not from a list, but from life. I didn't just stop with things I could see. I started naming actions too, boiling water, brushing hair, folding clothes, and even ideas, thinking hard, feeling nervous, getting excited. My world became English. my inner world, my outer world, they started speaking the same language. One of the best tricks I discovered was walking around with a little voice inside my head that described everything. I would go outside and it would say, "The wind is strong today. That woman is walking fast. There's a bird on the bench." I didn't need to make full, fancy sentences, just short, simple phrases. But the more I did it, the more natural it felt. I also started using labels in my house. I took sticky notes and wrote English words on them. I put mirror on my mirror, sink on my bathroom sink, drawer on my drawer. Every time I looked at something, I saw the word. It was like my house became my classroom. But more fun, more real. I even wrote little messages. On my fridge, "Don't forget your snacks." On my door, "Smile. Today is your day." Those small notes made me smile and kept my brain thinking in English. Even when I was doing boring chores like washing dishes or folding laundry, I used English to describe my actions. I'm scrubbing the pan. This shirt smells fresh. These socks don't match. And I laughed sometimes at the silly things I said. But those silly things helped me grow. I was using English all the time, not because I had to, but because I chose to. It became my secret world. On the bus, I looked at people and gave them silent stories. That man looks tired. Maybe he had a long day. That kid is chewing gum. He's probably bored. I didn't say anything out loud, but inside, I was speaking, thinking, learning, every moment of every day. And soon, something amazing happened again. I didn't need to translate anymore. When I saw a cup, I didn't think cup in my native language, then change it. I just thought cup, just like that. The translator in my head was gone. It didn't need to work anymore because English had moved in and unpacked its bags. Even my dreams started coming in English sometimes. Not always, but enough to make me feel proud. I remember one dream clearly. I was at a store asking for help. And I said, "Excuse me, do you have this in a smaller size?" I woke up smiling. My dream self had spoken English, and that meant I was truly starting to live the language. At school, people noticed. My teacher said, "Olivia, your speech feels more natural now." My classmates said, "You sound like you've been practicing a lot." But I wasn't just practicing. I was changing how I lived, and the truth is, anyone can do it. You don't need special books or courses. You just need to look around and start naming the world in English, one word at a time, one moment at a time. The day I truly knew I had changed was when I visited my cousin. She only spoke our native language, and when she asked me what I was thinking, I said, "Oh, I was just thinking that the trees look really pretty in the sunlight." Then I laughed, because I had said it in English without noticing. That's when I realized I wasn't just learning English anymore, I was living it. After I started using English words for everything around me, my entire day began to feel like a soft English lesson. Not in a classroom way, but in a gentle, natural rhythm that danced through my routines. From the moment I opened my eyes to the time I brushed my teeth at night, I was seeing the world through English words. And slowly, they stopped feeling foreign. They became part of me. But there was one piece still missing. The quietest part of my day. The time right before I fell asleep. It was something I hadn't really thought about before. I always imagined that learning English was about studying during the day, talking during conversations, watching shows, or listening to English podcasts. I never realized how important those final moments of the day were. The few minutes before your eyes close, when your brain is the softest, the most relaxed, the most open. It all started one night after a long, tiring day. I had done everything in English, read a short article online, watched a video, talked to myself while doing chores, and even helped a classmate with her homework. I was proud of myself. But that night, as I lay in bed, something interesting happened. I was replaying the day in my head like I always did. I was thinking about the people I saw, the things I said, what I had for lunch, the walk I took in the evening. But this time, the words in my head came out in English, not my native language. Today was nice. I felt proud of myself. That class was difficult, but I understood it. The teacher smiled at me. She saw my effort. I think she knows I'm trying. The words were soft and slow, but they were mine. I smiled in the dark. My heart felt light. It was like a secret I was keeping, a happy secret between me and the language I was learning. And that's when I decided to do it on purpose. From the next night onward, I made it a new habit. Just like brushing my teeth or turning off the light, I added one more thing to my bedtime routine, practicing English in my mind before I fell asleep. It wasn't anything fancy. I didn't use grammar books or vocabulary lists. I didn't look at a screen. I just lay on my pillow, closed my eyes, and spoke silently to myself in English. Some nights I told myself a story about my day. I would say, "Today I walked to the store. I saw an old man feeding birds. The sky was gray but calm. I bought apples and cookies. The lady at the counter smiled and said hello." Other nights, I would talk to myself like a friend. I'd say, "You did well today, Olivia. I know it was hard. But you didn't give up. You made progress. You are growing." And sometimes, when I had too many thoughts or felt nervous about tomorrow, I would use English to calm myself down. I'd breathe slowly and say things like, "Take a deep breath. Everything is okay. You are safe. You are learning. You are doing your best." At first, it felt a little strange. I was used to thinking in my native language. My mind wanted to switch back, but I was gentle with myself. I didn't try to be perfect. I let the English flow, even if the sentences were simple, even if I made mistakes in my mind. What mattered most was that I was using the language when I was most quiet, when no one was listening, and something beautiful happened. English became part of my dreams. I still remember one night, a few weeks after I started this habit. I dreamed that I was in a bookstore, talking to someone about a novel I liked. The conversation was smooth. I said things like, "This book made me cry," and the ending was so powerful. When I woke up, I was amazed. My dream had been in English from beginning to end, and it didn't feel forced. It felt natural, like my brain had finally accepted English as a real part of my inner world. That experience gave me even more energy. I started looking forward to bedtime. It wasn't just rest anymore. It was also quiet practice, soft learning, and peaceful thinking in English. There were nights when I would close my eyes and imagine little scenes. I would pretend I was walking through a park and describing what I saw. Green trees, a small dog barking, 2 kids laughing on the swings. The wind is cool. The sky is light blue. Other times I would make up stories. Just small ones. Maybe I was at a coffee shop talking to the person next to me, or visiting a museum and asking questions about the art. I kept the language simple. I didn't worry about big words or complex grammar. I just let the English speak from my heart. Some nights, I asked myself small questions. I'd think, what did I enjoy today? What was difficult? What am I thankful for? And I'd answer in English like I was writing a letter to myself. I enjoyed the sun on my face. I liked hearing music at the cafe. Today, speaking English was harder than yesterday, but I tried. I'm thankful for the chance to learn. Even 5 minutes of this practice each night made a big difference. It was like cleaning my brain before sleep, letting it rest with the sound of a new language, gently rocking me into dreams. And the more I did it, the more my confidence grew. My spoken English got stronger, but not just because I practiced out loud. It got stronger because I was building it inside, where the real thoughts live. I didn't have to search for words so often. They came more easily. I didn't panic when someone spoke to me quickly. I had been having quiet conversations in my own mind all along. I even noticed that my speaking rhythm started to sound more natural. because I had practiced it in my thoughts, in those peaceful moments before sleep. This habit also helped me stay kind to myself. If I had a tough day, instead of ending it with frustration, I ended it with English and with hope. Tomorrow will be better. I'll keep going. I believe in myself. Those small bedtime sentences weren't just language practice. They were also little seeds of self-love, planted in a new language. There was a night when I couldn't sleep. My mind was full of worries. But instead of letting them take over, I made myself think in English. I told myself, worry is like a storm. It will pass. Breathe slowly, count to 10. Think of something good. I thought of my grandma's hug. I thought of warm tea. I thought of the time I made my teacher laugh, all in English. And finally, my mind calmed down. It may sound simple, but this one habit, practicing English before sleep, changed everything. It helped me carry the language not just in my mouth, but in my heart. It made English feel like my own, not something I borrow for class or copy from a video, but something I live with even in silence. Every night when I whisper to myself before closing my eyes, I feel proud. Not just because I'm learning English, but because I'm choosing it, choosing to think in it, feel in it, dream in it. And that, I believe, is the secret to real fluency. Not just using English when the world is watching, but using it when no one is.